And we now have all folks accounted for, so Madam Clerk, would you read the roll, please?
Yes, Ms. Cole, Mr. Jones, Mr. Schmidt,
Here.
Mr. Lind, Mr. Morrissey,
Yes.
Mr. Welper,
Here.
Mr. Hart.
Here, motion to approve the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have two work sessions today, boards and commissions and mental cooperation. It says that the first one is submitted by Councilman Schmidt and the second one by me, but actually, I think that one's Councilman Schmidt also, Steve. So I'm just going to let you kind of start and see where we go with the boards and commissions conversation.
Okay. And I thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members for attending today. What I thought I'd do as a starting point is I brought along some copies of current application for boards and commissions. I think most of you have seen these, but they usually get through. But I guess if we go back a little bit, for those of us that have been on council for a little while, we've talked over the last 6 years about the situation where a person gets on a board and they're kind of on there like forever. And we do have one or two occasions where we've got people that have been on a board for 12 or 15 years. And so one of the conversations several years ago, Mayor, I think this was before you took office, was that we would have wording in there that says that if a person's on a board for 2 consecutive terms, they will basically step off for 1 year, and then they can get back on that board or get on another board or whatever. And I believe that that has been added to our ordinance, and I think that that's on the website now if you look at that. And I think that was part of the conversation previously, and I think there was some misunderstanding about that, but I believe that is in effect today. So I don't know if I'm getting confirmation or disagreement, but that's.
It is on most of the,
Okay.
I don't think it's,
Ordinance,
I don't think it's an ordinance, Steve, or is it?
it's in each individual ordinance for each
For the-
board or commission.
Right, but we don't have
So for
an
instance,
overarching an ordinance that
correct,
speaks
we
to
have
all.
several individual ordinances that pertain to each board or commission
Right.
separately. But most of them do have that as
Right.
part of their rules, that no more than 2 consecutive terms.
Right.
Yes.
And so that was part of the conversation. And then the other part of the conversation, again, for those of us that have been around a little while, is that we'd had this conversation about not having a person serving on more than one board at the same time. And so, as was discussed, there were some names that were brought up, and, you know, those folks, and in each one of those situations, they either resigned from one of the 2 boards they were on or chose not to be resubmitted, and we're actually going to have another situation like that again today on one of the boards and commissions on a reappointment. So, and I talked to that person, and, you know, they said they understood the concept, because I really think, you know, what it boils down to is we've got a lot of talented people in this community, and I think if we've got folks that have the time and the inclination to volunteer that kind of time, that maybe they might want to think about mentoring in the schools, or maybe they might want to think about, you know, Boys and Girls Club, or Boy Scouts, or any number of other things. But, you know, I think one of the things we're trying to accomplish with these boards and commissions is to get a good cross-section of people on the various boards and commissions, rather than having, you know, a small group of people that are on several different boards. So that was also part of that conversation, and we've had that conversation and never really followed up on it. And so I just thought that, given the fact that now this year I am the chairman of the boards and commissions, I'd like to have that conversation, and I'd like to kind of to talk through that and what the plus and minus of that is. And then the other thing, and that's the reason why I gave everybody a copy of the current application. The other thing is I think that that's a little too generic, or doesn't really provide a lot of information. And for those of us, I don't know how many of the current council members are on a board or commission, but I've been on a number of them over the years, and most of them, the application is almost like a job application, that it asks for your educational background. And that doesn't mean that everybody on a board has to be a college graduate or a high school graduate, but again, if what we're trying to do is to get a good cross-section of people, and we're not going to bring people in for an interview, it would be good to know, are they a high school graduate? Are they a college graduate? you know, the comment about life experience had to do probably more with, you know, from a working standpoint than anything else, but, you know, what kind of jobs have they had? What kind of positions have they held? Have they held positions? You know, have they owned property? And we talk about having a good knowledge of property taxes and how they work. Well, if they've never owned a piece of property, they probably have never seen a property tax bill. So, I mean, those are just kind of some of the things that it seems to me would make sense that we have that level of knowledge. You know, we've got a person that's applying for one of our boards and commissions today, and he goes on at length about all his various, you know, professional and community experience, which is exactly what we're looking for. There was also a question about social media, and unfortunately, Councilmember Cole isn't here, but, you know, I've talked to a number of employers and managers since this whole conversation started, and every single one of them said they would never hire anybody today without checking social media. I mean, that's right or wrong, that's the way the process works anymore, to see, you know, if you find somebody that not quite behaving the way they should be, or having a little something hanging out of their mouth that not allowable in Iowa. And then, you know, so just those kind of questions, I think we should take a look at being added to our questionnaire to just make sure, again, we're understanding the individual and that we get, again, a well-rounded representation on all of our boards and commissions.
Tim, you got that printed, right? You got that printed? Okay.
Let me, and I'll start.
Let's not get all
We'll-
pissy about
we'll-
everything.
we'll-
Let's just talk this through.
That was your article in the
Let-
newspaper I
let me-
read, calling
let-
out
let me-
somebody's life experience,
Let me,
not mine.
let me add something.
I'm
Steve.
grown, I was elected, so I can talk what I want
Let me
to.
have something, please. For crying out loud, guys. I would agree with a lot of what you said. The thing that I don't necessarily agree with, I don't remember since I've been mayor, maybe the 2 years prior to me being elected when you were on the council, ever having a conversation about someone serving on more than one board. We certainly have had the conversation about serving more than 2 terms, several times, and David and I had that many times.
Been working on that.
And been working on it, try to,
Transition plans, move people on and
Yeah.
pass knowledge.
but I don't remember ever having a conversation about someone serving on more than one board. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know.
It was before my time as well. We came in at the same
Well,
time.
Yeah.
and that's why, you know, in this conversation, I use names, because, and Quentin, you were there for that conversation with former Councilman Dave Buck,
Yeah.
serving on multiple boards, and Kevin Evans. And the only reason I'm bringing those names up is those were public conversations we had. So if you haven't heard those, then it must have been when Tim Hurley was there, and that's fine.
It must have been,
Sure.
'cause- and David and I.
And David wouldn't have been here either.
When I first got elected
Right.
and David was on boards and
Right.
commissions, we spent, and David, God bless you, I mean, you worked hard on this to try to get this squared away. And, you know, it's gonna be up to council to obviously, inevitably, whether to do this, but I'll just make a couple more comments and I'll shut up and let Quentin have the floor. From my perspective, with this whole issue of appointing to boards and commissions, you know, even you, Steve, you says we want well-rounded people, but then you got very specific what you're looking for. I think we're going to eliminate a lot of people from applying if we do all the things that you indicated. Having said that, I do believe that the application needs to be expanded a little bit. For example, I got an application today on my desk. List current memberships in organizations and offices held. Doesn't list any leadership, but he's been with the Knights of Columbus, and he's president of his neighborhood association. So there's his qualifications. Under qualifications for appointment, it says, I really don't have exceptional education qualifications, nor do I have any experience serving on any boards or commissions, but I do have the desire to serve. Well, there you go. I mean, there's a guy that, I mean, he doesn't have any particular qualifications. He didn't list anything else. I happen to know this fellow. I think he'd probably do a good job. But if you just looked at that, you're going to exclude him automatically according to your criteria, Steve. And I guess one more thing briefly, the length of terms thing and the number of terms and the serving on more than one boards. And David, I hope you'll support me on this. We struggle a lot, gentlemen, getting applications from people that are qualified to serve on particular boards. Some of our boards have a lot of expertise attached to them. And particularly when we get somebody that is good at a particular job. Tom Langless comes to mind from the Cultural and Arts Board. He had served his terms. Cammie says, I don't have anybody else applying right now, and we need that expertise, we need that leadership. Can I keep Tom on again? And David and I looked at that, and we both decided, yeah, I think it's a good idea. Tim Luce serves on our Civil Service Commission and is chair of that. Has got, I don't know, several terms under his belt, but he serves an incredibly important function there and knows about it, so we extend his terms. There are other people who people have asked to extend those terms, and it's very, very convenient, I guess, or handy for us to be able to extend a term if the situation presents itself that we think we need to be.
Transition plan.
Yeah, if we're limited to, by ordinance, to say you can only serve 2 terms, no matter what the situation is, and you're done, and you can only serve on one board at a time and no more, your choice, all of your choice. But I think it's going to limit us incredibly to the applications, particularly as we look at race and gender balance and trying to fill these. Quentin,
Mr. Mayor?
Let Quentin go. He wanted to say something.
Yeah, I had, in regards to the comments that Councilman Schmidt made in regards to the application, I do believe that we're in a position now where we can do a little tweaking to the application. I actually did some research from a couple surrounding cities to see some of the things that they particularly ask in their application. While a person's educational experience or social media experience was not part of that, some of the other information like community involvement, special qualifications, list reasons why you'd like to be appointed. But they actually had gone on to ask, 3 or 4 questions about the particular board that they were asking to be added to. For instance, what's your interest in becoming a member of XYZ board? And just a couple questions in those regards. So I think we are at a point where maybe we can begin a little bit of tweaking with the application. So I am in agreement. I do remember having multiple conversations prior to David being on the board about the length of time or how many terms a person can serve. So I definitely acknowledge that. I do remember the conversation about Dave Buck at one point, but I don't remember talking about creating an ordinance to do it. So that's it. Another thing that I would like to do too is I don't want to make it so that it's so restricted that we can't get a broad base of people to be able to serve on boards. And I think that's that is a goal of ours. I also don't want to get to the point where we're following every person's Twitter page or those types of things, or placing a value on the experience that people have. If a person is in college, that's great, but I don't want to get into a point where we start to get a little bit too personal, because that'll turn people off from wanting to serve on board. So I do think it's the right time to take a look at our application and maybe tweak it a little bit. So I would be in favor of that. I'd also be in favor of, unless there's a special circumstance, to take a look at the consecutive terms. And I think you guys, David, you did a good job of trying to get people into there. But one other thing I wanted to say, before I started on council, I actually sat down with Mayor Hurley and sat down with Carolyn Cole, and we actually came up, we were taking a look at the boards and commission, because in addition to there not being the gender balance that you've all worked hard to change, there was also not any racial minority folks on board. So we actually put together a program to try to get more minorities involved with the boards and commissions. So all I want to say, this is a very important commission. This is very important to the city, and I just think we have to make sure that we're fair and balanced when we're making recommendations.
Pat?
Yeah, the question I have is, or questions have to do with, if somebody fills out this application, they get it from where?
From Michelle Westfall, my
From
secretary.
Michelle Westfall,
Or
and then,
online,
Or off the website.
or off the website.
and then what happens?
We turn it over to, we being Michelle, gives it to whatever department is appropriate. Sometime, most of the time, quite honestly, people will ask to be on a particular board, or one or two particular boards. And we then give that application to the appropriate person that's in charge of that board.
As in, could you give me an example?
Planning and zoning, we turn the applications into planning and zoning to be on the planning and zoning board.
So Noel then would,
Noel would take a look at it and would say, you know, I know this guy, I think he'd do a good job. Cultural and arts, we give to Kent Schenkel. Community development, we give to Rudy. Design review, we give to Noel also.
and
I
then,
think.
and
So,
then, Mayor, when they get that, then what happens?
Well, I can't speak for them, Pat, but I'm assuming that they
Noel,
look.
what would you do with it then?
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. Generally, we get the applications, we'll take a look and see if we have any openings on any of the boards and commissions, and they can list, I think, 2 or 3 of them at the top that they're willing to serve on. If we have any of those that are open, we'll look to see if there's any, like Design Review Board, there's certain positions that have to have certain qualifications, like architecture, landscape architecture. Planning Commission, there's no specific qualifications. If we have an opening, then we think they'd be a good fit, we'll make a recommendation back to the mayor's office to move ahead with the appointment.
Would you ever call them in for an interview or call them on the phone?
I believe we have called them before on the phone, especially where we've had someone resign or something on the Planning Commission and didn't have any newer applications, so we call them just to find out, are they still interested in serving? Otherwise,
So you do some vetting of
when we
the
need to, we'll
potential
do it.
applicants for planning and zoning, or if it was Kent Schenkel, he would do the same thing for that?
I would
as
assume
well?
so.
Okay. So there is a process where more information is found out than what's on the sheet. And,
Most of the time, Pat, that's true. Yeah.
and I guess I just have a real problem anytime we start throwing in other kinds of conditions for good people of Waterloo wanting to serve the city. And I would just ask that boards and commissions think that over before they come forward with any kind of plan. This should be, in my opinion, as broad as possible, doesn't exclude anybody, and I think we let the people that are in charge of those different departments or boards or commissions do their vetting, and then come to us or pass it on to the mayor or however it goes. But it sounds like we're trying to put conditions up that would exclude people, and I would be totally against that. So,
And I would just add, and for Steve's sake too, and I hope David supports me on this one too, with a few exceptions, the process has really worked very well up to this point. We've had the latitude to extend terms if we needed to, and Noel just gave a good example. There are some boards that require you to be an architect or an electrician or something. And when we're trying to fill those, it's going to be difficult to do it. So we are asked to extend terms occasionally, and it helps to be able to do that. So, David, do you have any comments? I'm referring to you. And
Right, no, that's true, and some of the ones where you have to have a special license or live in the city have been very challenging, especially when we're trying to do gender balancing. Has been extremely hard on some of those. So we do the best we can, make our best effort on those. And you'll see in the paper all the time of, these boards need people, right? So we do try to get the word out there of boards that need people, and, we do the best we can of people that have been on more than 2 terms to transition them off to provide that knowledge to other people on the board that can take that and use that and, transition them off. Maybe they won't fulfill a full 3rd term, but how long is it gonna take to transition them off? So that's what we had tried to do.
So, if I could kind of go back to the beginning of the conversation again, I never said anything about restricting anybody from anything. I never said anything about any requirements. So, I think we're getting into 2 different conversations here. All I asked was that we have more information. When you apply for a job, you're expected to provide a certain level of information. You know, have you been arrested lately? Have you broken the law lately? That'd probably be a good thing to know before we appoint somebody to a board or commission. Wouldn't that be a reasonable question? The boards and commissions that I'm on, typically what they're looking for is what do you as a board member bring to the board, so we don't end up with a board full of realtors or a board full of lawyers or a board full of whatever. But again, we have that well-rounded group. And I didn't say they had to be a high school graduate, or I didn't say they had to be a college graduate, but I do think having a sense of, you know, where has this person been, what experiences have they had, and what do they bring to this commission, I think is a reasonable expectation. You know, the serve in 2 terms, Mr. Mayor, I think that's why we have in there that then you need to take 1 year off, and then you can come back on. But I think, again, part of that reason is so you get fresh blood, so you get new ideas, so you don't get people that are so entrenched and, well, that's the way we've been doing it for the last 20 years, so why would we think about doing anything differently? I mean, I think that's the purpose of that. It's not that anybody's out to get anybody, and, you know, again, none of this is personal. It's just, I think this is the way the boards and commissions that I've been involved with over the years the last couple of years have really tried to focus on getting well-rounded boards so that everybody has something to contribute to the discussion or the project or whatever it is they're working on. And I think that's just what we ought to do too. And if we, you know, if we're gonna have, kind of going back to our ordinances, if we're gonna have some expectations, some rules, some ordinances, whatever you wanna call it, then we probably need to abide by them. And if we don't, then we probably ought to, you know, take them off. But so that was my thought, and again, we've talked about this off and on. For 6 years, it becomes a topic, then it goes away, then it becomes a topic, and I just thought now is a good time to take a look at this. Like I say, I'd like to add some additional questionnaires to this, and so that was my purpose for the work
Okay.
session.
David?
So I think the way it works today is the department head goes through and vets the application, and then they work with you, the mayor, the elected mayor, to go through and really talk about these applications. And I really do think they try to get a well-rounded board or commission. I remember in particular a discussion on human rights one day, where we really did try to find, you know, to really round out that commission, and had some good discussion over that. And, you know, I think that's the way it works today, and I think it does a fairly good job of doing that. I understand, you know, gathering more data points might be helpful. I mean, we don't want it to look like a job application here. Turn in your resume, let's check your credit report, let's, you know, do a background check, and maybe you go pee in a cup. I don't know, you know, it's just, I don't think we want to go that far.
Thanks,
You know, a
David.
great example is to serve on the jury. They got a real short form. And it basically has education, experience, criminal background, some quick things. That's how we should have it. Susie's the expert in HR. She's the one that should kind of show us exactly what we need to get the best candidates, or vet the best candidates. The other thing I'd like to see is, as a council person, when it comes to the council, an attachment that shows what the recommendation from what person, what department. You know, Noah Anderson, I recommend this person because blah, blah, blah.
I think it does now, doesn't, or, no, I guess it doesn't. It comes from,
Sometimes it does,
it comes from me, Tom, that's
Then
right.
it'd be more
You
transparent.
know, the application process now, I can tell you, I think, without exception, we have never, since I've been mayor, appointed somebody to any boards or commission that we didn't know something about them. And would they be a good fit? You know, we always go to the department head and say, do you know John Doe here? He's applied to be on community development. Not a clue, don't know who he is. We will not appoint that person without doing some vetting ourselves. Either the department head will, or I will, or Michelle will, or somebody will find out a little bit about him.
Mayor?
But I don't,
I'd also just note that depending on the board or commission, and planning tends to be a little different because they have more power, for lack of a better word. They actually make some decisions. But on a lot of the boards and commissions, we'll actually take the applications to that board or commission. For instance, for my cable commission, any new applicants that come, I actually take it to the cable commission and get their input before I refer back to the mayor, so that, because I may personally not know them, but generally, they've talked to somebody on that board, or they're friends with somebody on that board, or they're known in the community, and I just don't know them. So some of us do actually go get recommendation from the board or commission itself as to whether this would be a good fit, and if not, the reason why, so that it's not just, oh, I don't like that person, that sort of thing. I mean, it has to be a legal reason why it would not be a good idea, such as they don't live in the city, and the ordinance requires it. So I think every board or commission is a little different on the process, so I would hate to see us get too strict, because every board or commission has different needs. Some are purely advisory, and some actually have some decision-making. So from a staff standpoint, we want a little bit of flexibility as to what that process is based on what the board or commission is. But I absolutely think we should be, somewhat vetting every applicant and getting as much information. I mean, I'm not
Having
opposed
said
to.
all of that, Steve, I don't absolutely agree with you that more information on that application would be a good thing. What I disagree with is to be rigidly responsible to an ordinance that says you may only serve 2 years, or 2 terms, period, and you can't serve no more than one board at a time. I think that is, in the long run, is going to handcuff us a bit as we try to fill these boards and commissions.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
as senior elected official here, in my 12 years, Steve, I do not recall a conversation in regards to not serving on more than one board at a time. And you're right, we do have a community full of talented people. We do and we don't. I had a very intellectual young lady, business person, who was the only person who's ever asked me to be on a board or commission, asked how I went about doing it, and I explained it to her. We couldn't find a place for her because of her job. Very talented, very intelligent. There was no place to put her. She wanted to be part of the community, but she couldn't. And this is too bad. Those people who are talented enough and do have the time to serve, I understand why they're on more than one board, is because there aren't enough of them to go around. The times when these meetings are held is not always the best for people who are still working. So I don't know if you got a drawer full of names of people who are willing to serve, but here's a very talented lady who couldn't.
We do have some, and I think Steve is recruiting, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Steve, but I think you're recruiting people right now, so we have had an uptick in applications, which is a really good thing. That's a very good thing, because we haven't had that, unfortunately, and I have to choose my words carefully. They're, for the most part, white males that are applying, where we need a mixture of females and gender balance, or ethnic balance also. So, anyway, I'm not sure exactly where we go with this information from a work session, but I think, Steve, what would you like to see happen?
Well, I'd like to see us, I guess, fine-tune the application a little bit, and whether or not that's something that I should just do on my own, or whether or not that's something maybe Quentin and Susie and I, the three of us, could do, given their 2 backgrounds, if they have time, and maybe that needs to wait until after we're done with the budget from your perspective. Again, I'm fine with that. Pardon me?
Who's all on your committee? This is with
Quentin and David, I believe.
Oh, okay. I would think the 3 of you could
Yeah.
No, that'd be an
work on that,
that'd be an
bring it back to the rest of us.
Illegal meeting around. I was just kidding.
Well, you can post it.
We had the majority. I was just kidding. But I thought with Susie's background, and yeah, David could, that'd be fine. Yeah, so maybe the
And
4 of us.
I'm all in favor of expanding that, Steve. I think it's a good idea to increase the question on there. I don't want to get to where we, you don't want to be too restrictive, and I don't think you would be.
No.
But,
Mr. Schmidt, the problem I have with this is that it seems to be working. It seems to have worked for eons. And why all of a sudden now? I mean, ask yourself that question. The other thing is, why are we fixing something that's not broken? This isn't broken. This has worked. Look at all the great people we got on boards and commissions now. So why are you looking for a fix for something that's not broken?
Well, Pat, I think the point is that, as the mayor mentioned, now we have more applicants, because I've been promoting this, and we have more applicants, but if we have the same person serving in multiple seats, then that's that much less of an opportunity for these multiple applicants. I mean,
Well,
it's real.
and what I would say is that if we have multiple applicants, then it appears that the application is doing its job, and it appears, say, if they're going to Knoll, if they're going to Kent, that they can do their vetting just like they have in the past, and we don't need any particular changes or any additional conditions put on a form that evidently is working, otherwise we wouldn't be having all these increased applications.
No, increased applications has nothing to do with the form.
Well-
It has, excuse me, it has to do with me promoting the boards and commissions. So if we're having more applications for less seats, how do we narrow the field other than by having more information on those individuals? I mean, I
By the
think this-
vetting that's done by the department heads,
Well, I don't
by the
think our-
board.
So I don't think our department heads need to be vetting 5 down to 2 if this could help us do that, Pat. I mean, I think that's.
I don't see that happening. Are there that many openings?
Pardon me?
Are there that many openings right now?
On some.
There's quite a few openings, but, I mean, and
Hard to
we're
fill.
just in the process of, as the mayor said, getting a lot of these applications. I mean, this is all kind of an in-process situation. So I think now's the perfect time to be doing this.
Mayor,
And
can
I
I
don't-
say something? Sure. I think, Councilman Morris, I think one of the concerns that I had prior to coming here, and now I'm hearing that this is not that, just reading about, there's a certain level of experience that you have to have, like was quoted. So that was my problem when we first started. But now I'm hearing, we're just going to ask, we may restructure a couple questions, get some more information where we can. So none of this stuff that was stated is going to be what's going to be used to evaluate, from my understanding. So I think it'll be good to sit down, maybe take a look at the application, ask questions differently, in a different way, and then see if we can get some more information.
David?
And I don't think, Mr. Schmidt, correct me if I'm wrong, are talking about restrictions. It's just more information.
Not talking about restrictions.
Just
that's all
more
I'm saying.
information. I like Mr. Lynn's suggestion of looking at what it takes to serve on jury duty. It's very straightforward, one page, easy to do, just more information.
But we won't say because you own or you rent that you will be a better or less better board member.
No.
Okay.
I guess, again, we're not going to take a vote today, but I would like to hear some, just very brief comments, if I could, about whether to move forward with drafting any kind of an ordinance or a resolution that would strictly limit people to the number of terms without any flexibility or without being able to serve on more than one commission. I guess I would just.
Mayor,
like
would
to-
it help if I read the way it is now
Yeah,
on
it's
all of
already-
them?
It's already there.
The way it is now is that no member of the commission shall serve more than 2 consecutive terms and shall not be reappointed to a 3rd term unless the member has not served on any board or commission of the city for a minimum of 1 year before reappointment to any board or commission, except 1 or more additional terms may be approved upon extraordinary circumstances and unavailability of applicants as determined by the mayor.
That's perfect. That sounds to me.
And that is how every board or commission is currently set up.
And truly, people serving more than one term, or excuse me, more than the 2 terms, David, you and I, we chatted several times.
We transition them off, they do
About-
not fill a full
Right.
3rd term.
Right. And I just would like to see it stay that way. It's not mentioned anywhere that I know of about serving on more than one board. There is no
No.
language about that, and I would hope that council would agree that there's no need for that it would be a rare occasion when they do, and when they do, they're the right person to do that. Okay?
Okay.
And do I have mostly consensus on that?
But, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll work.
Very good, but I mean, if you guys want to take a look at the wording on the application, I think that's totally appropriate. Just so as not to be so restrictive, though, that we're going to eliminate anybody, but, so, okay?
Okay.
Very good. Thank you for the conversation, all. We do not need to adjourn. We're going to go into Metro Cooperation. And again, that has my name by it, but I'm going to defer to Councilman Schmidt to kind of see exactly what you have in mind with that.
Okay.
See?
Well, and again, I don't know how many of you, and I'm sorry I didn't make copies of this, but how many of you got the letter in the email from Councilman Tabor, or Tiber, I believe how it's pronounced in Cedar Falls, and I, that I believe you forwarded that to everybody, didn't you? And had a copy of the letter and a copy of the second page of the document that had all the items on it. It's been a couple
I
of.
think I did, Steve, I don't remember now, but well, I don't know if I did or not, I can't remember.
Okay. Well,
Well, just ask, did you guys get a copy of that?
I think I got page one, for sure.
Okay.
and, basically what the letter talked about is as Waterloo and Cedar Falls continues to struggle with a variety of different budget challenges, whether it's the $14 million for the new radio, countywide radio system, or the $200 million for the sewers, or the, I don't know how many millions of dollars for the Emerald Ash Borer, or the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars for the 411 pensions, just variety of different things. Councilman Tabor and I have been talking, and I've talked to previous Cedar Falls council members about this too, about what more could Waterloo and Cedar Falls do to be working together in a collaborative manner. And while the mayor has mentioned, and the previous mayor had mentioned how he and the Cedar Falls mayor, and I think a representative from the Board of Supervisors and somebody from the schools, have had a group that works on this, our sense was that it would be ideal to have the councils meet and have a conversation. And I thought, with the timing we had with our planning session with Mr. Shaw from University of Iowa, and Cedar Falls had recently done their planning session also, that it would be an ideal time. And, there have been some changes in some of the councils because there is some history that I'm not familiar with, but I've heard enough about it, of some of the longer-terming council members that maybe Waterloo and Cedar Falls has tried to do this in the past, and for whatever reason, it hadn't gone that well. But I think a lot of those council members are no longer involved with either one of the councils, so, what's done is done, and history's history. But we just thought that now would be a real good time to talk about doing this, and we put together a letter, and we had a list of items here that, examples of ways that we thought we could be working collaboratively. And, the other thing, maybe to keep in mind a little bit, for those of you that watch something other than KWWL, if you happen to watch KGN or KCRG, I mean, that whole Cedar Rapids, Iowa City thing is all promoted as the corridor. There's no conflict between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City that I can see. They're working together all the time. That's not what you hear in Waterloo and Cedar Falls. And,
Oh, wait a minute, Steve. I'm sorry to interrupt you, I really am, but boy, I think that we have totally different messages on that. I think we work together fabulously, and we are the Cedar Valley, and it's Waterloo, Cedar Falls. So I'm sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you and I shouldn't have. I just really strongly disagree with that comment.
well, I'm sorry, but we just had a conversation about the Viking Plaza and how that's, one of our biggest challenges. Well, it shouldn't be our biggest challenge. Waterloo and Cedar Falls should be working together, whether it's Viking Plaza, whether it's Crossroads. That's my point, is we say one thing, but then we're doing another. And when I'm saying we, I don't necessarily mean you, I don't necessarily mean Waterloo. I'm just saying it's this, we're not working together like Councilman Tiber and I think that we could and we should, and ultimately, to benefit the taxpayers of Waterloo and Cedar Falls. We promote this Cedar Valley, and I'm as big a proponent of Cedar Valley and doing things collaboratively, and I don't care whether it's Waterloo or Cedar Falls that gets the credit. And, again, I could, if somebody would want to run down the hall and make some copies, we've got a list here of, and I guess I got a couple of copies, a list here of a variety of things that, some of these that we had talked about in the, our work session the other night, but, refuse recycling, solid liquid waste processing, public safety, and we've got in parentheses, fire response. We just had this conversation as we're going through our budget hearing. I know it was before I got on the council. I don't know about, Councilman, here, if you want to hand that down there. Councilman Welper was on the council, but, at one time, I think Waterloo and Cedar Falls were very close to locating a fire station right on the edge of Waterloo and Cedar Falls, and for whatever reason, that didn't happen. Well, again, that was 10 years ago. Things have changed a lot. So I think something like that warrants a discussion. Human Leisure Services, whether or not do we need multiple golf course superintendents when we've got 3 golf courses, they've got 2. I mean, there's just a variety of different things. We've had a conversation about economic development, how we might be able to make that a more aggressive operation. Municipal utilities, you know, Cedar Falls has a utility capability that Waterloo doesn't, whether or not there might be an opportunity there. And I just think that, again, having more people in the room, more people at the table to discuss this would be advantageous, getting more perspectives on it. And then, Mr. Mayor, you had mentioned recently that you and this group that meet monthly are now going to quarterly meetings. And, I mean, typically, that would indicate to me that there's, you know, less getting done rather than more. If there was more getting done, you'd be meeting on a more regular basis rather than a less regular basis. And we also talked about collective bargaining reform, 411 reform, self-funded debt, healthcare pooling, additional 28E agreements. And then as we get into, you know, assuming the conversation goes well between Cedar Falls and Waterloo, I've talked to several of the supervisors, and, you know, then we get into things from the county. And then we get into things like the emergency communication that we know is coming, and we're gonna have to do something within the next 2 years. And possible, you know, shared refuse recycling and other shared assets. So, you know, that's kind of the high-level global overview, and I guess I wouldn't see any reason, my understanding is the Cedar Falls Council was, you know, agreeable to this, and I would expect or think that the Waterloo City Council would also, and I wouldn't see any reason why we wouldn't. So that was the purpose of this work session.
Okay, how would you like to see that happen? Because I'm in total agreement. If we can find ways of cooperation, I think we should. But how would you expect your initiative to move forward?
What we would propose to do is to set a date and have as many Waterloo and Cedar Falls council members there as we could. And, you know, we would propose to have somebody probably from Randy Pilkington's group up at UNI facilitate that. So we've got, you know, nobody with any necessarily skin in the game from one side or the other. And I don't know if initially, you know, we'd include the supervisors on that, but, and Mayor, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Obviously, we would ultimately want to include the county, our schools, their schools, UNI, Hawkeye. I mean, you know, the more the merrier from that perspective. But, so that's kind of like where we would like to start, is with the two city councils and a nonpartisan kind of facilitating and start the conversation there. So that's
So who's gonna pay for the Pilkington? I'm with you, but who's gonna pay for Pilkington
Well, I talked to
services?
Pilkington, and we'd figure that out.
Good for you. Okay, I am absolutely more than willing and happy to arrange that meeting with, at least from our side.
Okay.
And I'm quite sure that we'll get Cedar Falls, and we could meet at some neutral site rather than either one of the city halls, and we could have it facilitated by Randy, and we could see where it goes. I'm perfectly willing to do that.
Okay. All right, well, I thought from the, you know, the conversations we'd had that we need to have a, you know, a discussion and I don't know if we need to have a vote from the council or what we need to do to proceed, but.
Well, I think to
That was my
proceed,
goal.
I can, again, I'll take direction from the council, but I can schedule a meeting, and those that want to come can show up, and those that don't want to come don't show up. I mean,
Well,
it's pretty simple.
I'm absolutely in favor of it. I think when you first started, we took a little bus tour. I think we took a bus tour and went around and looked and said we would continue to meet on a regular basis, so I'm absolutely in favor of it. It's long overdue.
Yeah, the only message that I bristle just a little bit at, council, and Steve, you know this, is that there's an insinuation that we aren't doing this already, which is absolutely not true. You know, and it's not council and council, but John and I talk, McAllister and I talk, Bob Seymour and I talk, and we have ongoing conversations about ways to try to collaborate. The bottom line is in the end, it has to benefit both cities. It has to benefit Waterloo, and it has to benefit Cedar Falls. And the reason we went from quarterly with this group, and actually it's been a while since we've met, period, Steve, is that we kind of ran out of ideas that was working. But, you know, I am absolutely in favor of it if we can get together, and if the two councils can get together and figure out a way to combine services and save both cities money, let's do it.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, this was, again, Mayor Hurley was in office, and this subject had come up at that time. And he had, it could be in one of your files someplace, he had 2 pages plus of what Waterloo and Cedar Falls are doing together. It
Oh,
was-
there's a- we
it was-
do a
It was
bunch.
quite a large number of items that we were working together on, so
We-
that,
we do a bunch
you
of
may have
stuff.
that somewhere in your
Yeah,
file cabinet.
yeah. You know,
Could we
and
get a
there's-
copy of that?
Well, I don't have a clue where it's at, Pat.
Or Ron, do you have it?
No, no, that's been,
I mean,
I've been
quite
to-
honestly, most of
But-
Tim's files are no longer in the office, but,
But even, Ron's correct, but I think even with that, I think we may be able to find some opportunities on some areas we didn't think of before. So just maybe a good dialogue. Who knows what'll happen in the future, but maybe a good dialogue for all of us too as well.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Morrison?
Yeah, I sure would be in favor of talking with Cedar Falls. The one thing I really have a question about is why would cities include collective bargaining reform, Mr. Schmidt?
Well, Patrick, again, I would assume, seeing as we have this conversation every budget year, that 75 to 80% of our budget is personnel, that that would be one of the things that'd be on the table to talk about, that what can we do to
Well,
improve?
what is meant by collective bargaining reform? Does that mean we're going back to a few years ago when public employees took the brunt of the assault coming from the other side, directed specifically at workers and their benefits, their wages, and trying to cut them and gut their union contracts? Is that what this is about?
I'm not familiar with what you're talking about, Pat,
Oh,
so I'm not
Mr.
sure
Schmidt,
who
I know
the-
you are.
I'm not sure who the other side is, or,
Non-workers,
and
opposed to public employee workers.
non-workers?
Well, I tell you what, resident,
Non-workers?
could we have that
Yes.
discussion, Pat, at the meeting? I think that we're gonna find, when we get together, that many, if not all, of these subjects have already been talked about. Again, not at the council level, but we've discussed these things, and I think we'll be able to have input on it. And, you know, collective bargaining is gonna be a tough one. If we wanna just dissolve the two cities and have a joint city, then we can bargain together. Then it'll be the, Waterfalls or something as a city, and you'll have one joint, but,
Can I say something
Quentin.
before we adjourn? I think, I'm hoping, Steve, with the list that you gave, that was just some ideas that was discussed, but the purpose of having Randy come is for us to have some synthesis, some thought about it, so we can kind of develop where we go. And if that's not one that we want to touch on, we won't touch on it, but I think the purpose of having Randy there, I think it's the Institute for Decision, something like that.
Yep, Institute
But they
for
help us to
Decision-Making.
kind of develop a direction in which way we want to head, so.
And, yeah, and very similar to what we did with the fellow from the University of Iowa, is there are some things there that we didn't agree on, and that was not the time or the place to get into a conversation of that level, and, yeah, we just kind of went from there.
I will set this up, gentlemen. I'm assuming this is gonna be, what, a 2-hour meeting initially, 3 hours? Steve, what do you want?
I would think, 2 hours, because part of it's just gonna be getting to know each other, because we've got some changes in our council, and they have too, that, there's some of their new council members that I haven't met yet either, so.
Let me get with, Cedar Falls. I'll put something together, and we'll see. And I'll run by times and places and so forth for you guys.
Probably happen after the budget.
Oh, it'll be after the budget. Yeah, it'll be after the budget.
Thank you, sir.
We got our hands full right now with that.
Appreciate that.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Or adjourned? And welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterloo City Council. Today is Monday, February 10th. We have a good audience with us tonight, so welcome to all of you and to all of those that might be watching tonight on our public access television. Madam Clerk, would you start us by reading the roll, please?
Yes, Ms. Cole? Here. Mr. Jones? Here. Mr. Schmidt? Here. Mr. Lind?
Here.
Mr. Morrissey? Here. Mr. Welper?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Thank
And
you.
if you would all join me, please, in standing for just a moment of silent reflection or prayer. And gentlemen, if you all have a cap on, if you please remove it, that would be great. Thank you very much. Our Pledge of Allegiance tonight is going to be led by Mr. Larry Smith, our Superintendent of Waste Management. Larry, please.
Please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may be seated.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hart.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as proposed. Also, with the approval of the agenda, I move that we approve the minutes of February 3rd's regular session.
Council, do you have any questions or comments regarding the agenda or the minutes? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We get to recognize a 30-year employee tonight, so Deb, if you would please come up. Don't be embarrassed, for crying out loud. Come on, just come through the gate, push on it, and come right on up. You know, used to, we just, come on up here, come on up here. We used to kind of just do this very quietly and nondescript, and we changed it just for you, by the way. But yeah, Deb Rosel, I have known Deb, well, since she started, because I was here on the police department when Deb started with us in the records division of the police department. Yep. I'm not sure how it is that all of these folks that are getting 30-year recognition that were on when I was here are getting older, and I'm not. But I'm not that. Sorry, Deb.
I'm 30.
But you know, all kidding aside, it's an honor for me to recognize you, Deb, and all of the folks that. It's just, I think, an incredible feat to get 30 years into one place of employment. I think it's worthy of recognition that we do something special for those folks that spend 30 years with the city of Waterloo. And Deb started in our records division with the police department and is now in our evidence section, and just has always done a great job, always shows up and always contributes and always has a smile on your face. And while we've been disconnected here for a few years, we used to work fairly close together for a while. So thank you, Deb, for everything you do. You are going to get a plaque here that says presented to Deb Rosel on February 7th, 2014, in appreciation of 30 years of valuable and dedicated service to the city of Waterloo. So Deb, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to say a few words or no?
Thank you, no.
And Deb asked me if she had to stay for the meeting, and I said, absolutely, you can't leave. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that, so that's fine. Deb, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hart.
I move that we receive, place on file, and approve the consent agenda, items 1A through B7. Also, with the approval of the consent agenda, I move that we make our bills payment, which will be read by our finance chair.
The bills are $2,801,470.77, 2,801,470.77.
Council, do you have any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? It's a roll call vote, Madam Clerk, please.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
I would vote yes on everything except the appointment of Dave Buck to the telecommunications for double board representation.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Very good, the motion carries. I'm going to recognize a couple of people here. I know Robert Tyson is with us. Bob, just stand up for us, would you please? Bob has been incredibly active in the city, in the school system, and has just been a great community member for a long time, and he is now joining us on our Community Development Board. So Bob, thank you for stepping up, thank you for volunteering, and we're looking forward to a long relationship here. So thanks to Bob for being a volunteer. And I didn't see anyone else that are either new or reappointments on our boards or commissions. Is there anyone out there whose name is on this list that I didn't see? John Hayes is a new appointment to the Main Street Board, but I didn't see John here. Thank you, John, for stepping up. Kent Flagey is here. Kent, why don't you stand up, please, and just let us see you. Kent is just been hired to the position of mechanic in our street department. So, Kent, welcome aboard. Thank you very much. Thanks for saying hi to Waterloo. And Kent, the same thing kind of goes for you. If you'd like to stay for the rest of the meeting and get a nice lesson in civics, you may. If you don't want to, you're free to leave, and you're not going to offend anybody. So it's your choice. Thanks, Kent. You bet.
Excellent.
Very good. Item number 2, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Schmidt.
Item number 2, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing, and that's for the fiscal year 2014 asphalt overlay program, contract number 857.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and the hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, were there any written objections on file to the overlay program?
There were none.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either for or against the asphalt overlay program? A second time?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Council, do you have comments on the asphalt overlay program? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adopt a resolution confirming approval of plans, specifications, form of contract, et cetera.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adopt a resolution ordering construction.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion then to receive and file and instruct the city clerk to open and read bids and refer to city engineer for review.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, please. We have one bid tonight, ladies and gentlemen, with an estimate from the engineer's office of $2,032,690.
There's one bid from Aspro Inc. of Waterloo, Iowa. The bid bond is for 5%. And the total bid is for $1,957,171.65, 1,957,171.65.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Clerk, please. Mr. Hart.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing for the request for a proposal for demolition and site clearance services for 210 Clay Street, 211 Cortlandt Street, 223 Independence Avenue, and 120 Smith Street.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and the hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, were there any written objections on file to item number 3? Is
There were none.
there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either for or against the site clearance of those addresses noted? A second time?
Mr. Mayor, I move to close the hearing.
Second.
Council, do you have any comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution confirming approval of plans, specifications, form of contract, et cetera.
Second.
Madam Clerk, that's a roll call vote.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Very good, the motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution ordering construction.
Second.
Madam Clerk, it's a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Very good, that motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to receive and file and instruct city clerk to open and read bids and refer to Community Planning and Development Director for review.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Madam Clerk, we have one bid, ladies and gentlemen, for this site clearing service from Lehman Trucking Company. The estimate is $36,000.
The bid is from Lehman Trucking and Excavating, Inc. of Waterloo, Iowa. The bid bond is for 5%. The total bid is for $33,270, 33,270.00.
Madam Clerk? Noel, or who's that, Rudy? Please.
Thank you.
Do our resolutions, council, please, if we could do the first 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Welper.
number 4 is a resolution approving the service agreement with Laughing Tree LLC to operate an art house cafe within the Waterloo Center for the Arts effective March 1st, 2014. Number 5 is a resolution approving the submission of Blackhawk County Gaming Association grant application in the amount of $90,000 to be used for the demolition and reconstruction of the concession restroom building at the Burns Tennis Center and authorize mayor to execute said document. Number 6 is a resolution approving submission of the Waterloo Convention and Visitors Bureau Event Capital Project grant application in the amount of $15,750 to be used for the demolition and reconstruction of the concession restroom building at the Burns Tennis Center and authorize mayor to execute said document.
Second.
Council, do you have comments regarding 4, 5, or 6?
Mr. Mayor, question
Mr. Jones?
on number 6. What is the total estimated cost on that project for the restroom and the concessions?
Paul? It's a puzzled look on Paul's face. I'm not sure that,
I had a puzzled look because I don't have it right in front of me. We are going to put some bond money along with these 2 grants if we get both of them, and I think it's in the 120 range, but I'd have to check to get you an exact estimate on that.
And
I
you're
can,
getting-
I can do that.
That's fine. And you're getting this grant from Hotel Motel because of the tournaments and things out there?
Yes, yeah, it's well used for tournaments. It's considered one of the best tennis complexes in the state, and we do cycle through the state high school tournaments as well as some UNI tournaments and so forth, so, yeah, it's a good heads on beds operation.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I'll get the estimate for you soon. Thank you.
thanks, Paul. Further questions? Madam Clerk, it's a roll call vote on those 3, please.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Very good, the motion's carried. Next 3, please, 7, 8, 9.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Cole?
7 is a resolution approving submission of Cedar Trails Partnership Grant Fund request for a cross-country ski trail snow roller in an amount not to exceed $2,000. 8, also a resolution approving a contract addendum to the contract originally dated February 23rd, 2009 with Denver Construction of Denver, Iowa, extending said agreement for 3 years to expire on April 9th, 2017, at a cost of $58.68 per ton for the drop-off site recycling collection and disposal program, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute said document. 9 is a resolution approving agreement for a traffic safety improvement funding with the Iowa DOT in the amount of $56,800 for safety improvements at the intersection of LaPorte Road and San Marnan Drive.
Second.
Council, do you have comments regarding any of those 3, 10, 11, or 12?
Mr.
Or, I'm
Mayor,
sorry, 7, 8, 9. Mr. Jones?
Just a question on number 7.
Okay.
Will this be used anywhere other than Irv Warren? Or can it be?
Paul, please.
The group that's skiing there now has basically requested this, and we expect just Irv Warren to begin with. It certainly could be used in other places, but it has to be a wide open area, so it wouldn't be Greenbelt Trails or something like that. We could use it at one of the other golf courses if we had a tournament or something of that nature, but the snowmobile we use is at Irv Warren, and that's our primary ski area.
Okay.
Thank you. Further questions? Madam Clerk? Roll call vote, please, on those three.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion's carry. Let's do the next three, please, 10, 11, and 12. Mr. Schmidt?
Item number 10 is adopting a resolution approving the program evaluation and payment to Greater Cedar Valley Alliance in the amount of $24,250 for economic development efforts completed in fiscal year 2014. Item 11 is adopting a resolution approving the real estate purchase agreement with Thompson Residence Holdings 3 LLC for the acquisition and purchase of 1005 Lafayette Street in the amount of $20,000 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute said document. And item number 12 is adopting a resolution setting the date of hearing as February 24th, 2014, to approve the request of Harris Cleaning of Waterloo, Iowa, for site plan amendment to the M2P Planned Industrial District to allow for the construction of a 80 by 125 or 10,000 square foot industrial building located at the southwest corner of Northeast Drive and Newell Street, and instruct the city clerk to publish said notice.
Okay, motion and second. Council, do you have any comments regarding 10, 11, or 12? Madam Clerk, those are roll call votes also, please.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Very good, the motions carry. 13 and 14, please, the last two resolutions.
Mayor?
Mr. Morrissey.
Make a motion to adopt a resolution endorsing the use of Metropolitan Transportation Alternative Program funds for the development of the Shawless Road Trail from Hawkeye Road, Iowa Highway 21 to Isla Capri Boulevard, and authorize mayor to execute said documents, and a resolution setting date of hearing is March 3rd, 2014, to approve the fiscal year 2015 budget and instruct city clerk to publish a notice.
Second.
Council comments on either of those, 13 or 14? Madam Clerk, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Very good, the motions carry. Ladies and gentlemen, just for a matter of record, items 15, 16, and 17 are items that we've had considerable discussion about for months and months and months. Item 15 is what we're referring to as a landlord ordinance. Item 16 is an International Property Maintenance Code change, which is really just something that has to go along with item 15 in order for it to pass. Item 17 is a domestic violence victims issue ordinance that is really similar but separate from,
15.
if I get them backwards?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I did get them
Come on,
backwards.
too, but I
I'm
didn't want
sorry.
to stop you.
Well, I was on a roll, wasn't I? So, okay, item 15 is the domestic violence issue, my mistake. And item 16 is the International Property Maintenance Code issue, which kind of goes with item 17, which is the landlord issue. So my mistake on getting those confused. My point being, though, these are not hearings. Generally speaking, we don't have conversation, or we don't have comments and so forth during these. But I know that there are passionate feelings amongst folks out there, and I know one person in particular has asked to have comments regarding item 15. So I will allow comments on, I would hope nobody has items on 16, but if you have a comment on 15 or 17, if you'll be brief, I will allow comments on those ordinances. With that in mind, would somebody take 15, please?
Mr. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Hart.
To make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending the 2007 Code of Ordinances of the City of Waterloo, Iowa by adding a new Article B, Housing Protections for Victims of Domestic Violence of Chapter 3, Human Rights of Title 5, Police Regulations, for an ordinance amending the 2007 Code of Ordinances of the City of Waterloo, Iowa by adding a new Article B, Housing Protections for Victims of Domestic Violence of Chapter 3, Human Rights of Title 5, Police Regulations.
Second?
Okay, there's a motion and second on item number 15. If somebody would like to make comments regarding item number 15, the domestic violence issue, now is the time to do so. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Step to the microphone, give us your name and address, and again, please limit your comments.
Good evening. My name is Robert Tyson, and I live at 4350 Hoff Road, and I'm here to give support to the need for ordinances regarding domestic abuse and fair housing. I'd first like to commend the Human Rights Commission, Reverend Funches, the landlords, Chief Trelka, and other individuals for stepping up to address this issue in Black Hawk County. Just some background information. Every 6 seconds, there's a victim of domestic abuse in our country. 1 out of every 3 women will be a victim of domestic abuse or sexual assault during their lifetime. These are just the ones that report the abuse. Women of color proportionally have more domestic abuse. And there's so many individuals, women and men, who don't report the abuse. And we want people to know, this is not an education thing, but it's not the women's fault, okay? And from what we know, 20% of the women who are victims indicate that affordable housing was one of the issues for them if they became homeless. Just want to share an impact statement that a victim read in court last year before her abuser was sentenced. This will give you an idea of what victims of abuse or sexual assault go through. She addressed the court by saying the following. Number 1, the defendant made her feel guilty. Number 2, she was glad the protection order was put in place for 5 years. Number 3, it created a financial burden for her through her medical bills, through the destruction of personal property and tenant property. The abuse continues with her mental health and those of her children. She missed days of work because of the injuries and trauma. DHS got involved, and this kind of embarrassed her. And she also had to explain to her children why the abuser could not come back into her life. And another thing that she said that really impacted her because of domestic abuse was the self-esteem, and it was really hard for her to not think about it on a daily basis. In addition, she felt very embarrassed because law enforcement had to come in, take pictures of her, take pictures of children, but she knew that was part of their jobs if there was going to be justice done to the abuser. And as victims might say to some of us, and would say to maybe landlords, they would say, who will let me rent from them?
Steve, can you help? I think somebody just, Bob, why don't you wait just a minute
Okay,
until we see what's going on out there? Oh, yeah, Dr. Lederman's here. You okay, Eric? Okay, Robert, I'm sorry, why don't you go ahead? I didn't know exactly what was happening there. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt your impatient
No problem.
presentation.
Third thing that women might say is, will DHS take my kids if I report violence and call the police? And so we really want victims to call the police. Another issue is, will my landlord evict me if I call the police? I'm scared to call. And then women might say to landlords, how could you not want to help me to get help? Landlords, are you more concerned about your property values rather than my life? And of course, here in Black Hawk County and across the country, we're really concerned about this issue because what we're finding out is that women are fighting back. And that certainly helps with the safety, but it also presents other problems with women getting arrested, okay, for assault. And so the things that I'd like to close with, I'm hoping that with the ordinances that we can address the following: victim safety. We also want to empower victims and tenants to make the best choices for their life. And we want to ensure that victims know their rights, which they could have the option of maybe perhaps leaving a lease if they've had documented violence and it occurs on tenant property. So again, I just want to thank you and just leave you with that information.
Thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate it. Bob did a great job at presenting his case there. Is there anyone else that wants to speak to the domestic violence issue right quick? Yes, ma'am. Please give us your name and your address.
My name is Lisa Crow, and my address is 2802 Randolph Street. I am an advocate for Waypoint Domestic Violence Victim Service Program, which is the domestic violence service program for Blackhawk County. I am concerned about the unintended negative outcomes for victims of crime, including domestic violence, if the housing protection for victims are not built into the proposal at the onset. And I ask Waterloo policy to align with current federal housing protection for victims under the Violence Against Women Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, very much. Quickly, please.
Chris Schwartz of 1105 Mulberry Street. I just wanted to very quickly voice my support for this and let you know that we launched an online petition over the weekend for this, and we got support from 128 Waterloo voters so far. And we'll be happy to share those names and addresses with you.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Council, do you have questions or comments regarding the domestic violence issue, item number 15? Any of you? Madam Clerk, it's a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Very good. The motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, I move to suspend the rules.
Second?
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Lind?
No.
Mr. Morrissey? Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Very good. The motion carries. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, I move to consider and pass for the second and third time and adopt ordinance. Second.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Lind?
No.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Very good. The motion carries. Very good, Council. Thank you very much. Substantive stuff. Good pass. Item number 16, please.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Hart?
I'd like to make a motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance amending paragraph A of Section 2 of Article B, International Property Maintenance Code of Chapter 1, Building Code of Title 9, Building Regulations for an ordinance change to the International Property Maintenance Code.
Second?
Council, do you have comments regarding this item? Yes, sir?
I was just wondering if, well, both of them together, whether we've got support from the landlords group on these two items,
Well,
or this item in particular.
I doubt that we have 100% support on everything, David, but I know that Mr. Craig Clark has spent a lot of time. Craig, do you want to maybe just address David's question?
I guess I would probably defer it to the Landlords Association. I think some of them are here.
Okay.
Mark Pregler's here. He was at all the meetings. Maybe he would be better to speak than I would. I
Okay.
don't want to put words in their mouth. So.
Okay. Probably well done, Craig. Mark, you're here somewhere. Mark, generally speaking, the question was, do we have agreement from the Landlords Association to item 16 and 17?
Mark Pregler, 5312 Hammond Avenue, Blackhawk Landlords. That's a mixed answer, but as the board, we met repeatedly with all the right people. There were compromises made on both sides, the city and the Landlords Association, and important strides were made. So a very careful, neutral, no, not everybody will be happy, but yes, as a Landlords Association, our board representing the association is in agreement with the ordinance.
Thanks, Mark. Anything further?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Schmidt?
If I could also, and I just want to confirm this, that we have run all of these changes by our legal department, and we're comfortable that they're all going
Yeah.
to sustain.
Chris Wendland, Steve, was involved in every meeting we had, I think, and I know Craig and Chris have spent a lot of time together, so.
I mean, a lot of the comments we've heard as this conversation's gone on is that these are all lawsuits waiting to happen, and I understand there's no guarantees. But I just want to check and make sure that we had gotten
Yeah,
probably.
I think we have covered ourselves as best as we possibly can. Thanks.
Thank you.
Further? Madam Clerk, it's a roll call vote.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes?
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones? Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to suspend the rules.
Second?
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
No.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to consider and pass for the second and third time and adopt ordinance.
Second?
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind? Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Good. Motion carries. Thank you. Council, item number 17, please.
Mr. Mayor. Anyone? Mr.
You want to, somebody take item 17.
I'll take it.
Mr. Cole?
Good God.
A motion to receive, file, consider, and pass for the first time an ordinance repealing Chapter 7 Housing of Title 9 Building Regulations and enacting in lieu thereof a new Chapter 7 Rental Housing of Title 9 Building Regulations, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waterloo by repealing Chapter 7 Housing of Title 9 Building Regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waterloo and enacting in lieu thereof a new Chapter 7 Rental Housing of Title 9 Building Regulations of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waterloo.
Second?
Wow, very well done, Mr. Morrissey, for your first ordinance reading. That was a good one. Good job. Thank you. You're welcome. This will be the other item, ladies and gentlemen. If you feel strongly about something and want to cover something that hasn't been said, I would give an opportunity to speak. Please just, you know the drill, Forrest. Please.
Forrest Dillon, 1725 Huntington Road. I'm opposed to several areas in here. I won't read them all. The big one is the fee. You're proposing a 500% increase in the fee that I pay today because you're saying you want to pay for the program. We would like all programs to be paid for, golfing, culture and arts, everything. It'd be nice if they all paid themselves, but you're gonna hit us with a 500% increase. And in here, it says, on the back page, it says there is no licensing fee. But in the ordinance, you have in here that you get a license every year, and the fee can be set by the mayor and council. Now, which is it? You're going to set a fee, or you're going to leave it at zero? You know, this is 500% increase. Lot of different places in here where you can fee me and fine me, require me to give you all of the information from my renters, because they are the ones that pay the garbage and so on. I don't know if that's legal. That's one of those things that probably be tested in court, but it'll be the landlord that has to fight it, because we've given out information to you folks who maybe will or won't be in the suit, but you're putting a big burden on the landlords. And I know that doesn't bother you, but it does bother me. And I would like to suggest you don't pass this all three readings. There are hundreds of landlords out here that don't even know any of this. And contrary to some of your beliefs, not all of us are on the computer. I'm one that isn't. I'm not necessarily proud of it, but I don't think I have to. Everybody out there has a right to be notified and know what you folks are doing. And the TV screen reaches more people than anything there is. The newspaper puts in what they can. It's usually just a little short blip. Nobody knows what all the regulations and all the rules are and all the ramifications of doing or not doing this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Forrest. Craig, I'm curious, do you have an answer for the one issue that Forrest mentioned about the no fee and the fee? What does that refer to?
Yeah. Craig Clark, building official. What Forrest is referring to there is in the fee schedule that is actually one of those resolutions. I put it all on there as no fee, just to explain that we are not charging for a landlord license fee. We are just charging the $25 per unit. So the fee schedule probably looks a little funny in that case, that it actually says no fee on the fee schedule that you are adopting tonight. That's probably not real common, but I thought it would help clarify that information. At a later date, how the ordinance reads is it would come back for council to adopt a resolution to make any fee changes. So it would have to come back to council to change any sort of fees in the ordinance.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Can Craig talk about the 500% increase, which isn't 500% increase?
What I guess you'd be referring to there, right now they get inspected every 5 years. So they pay $25 every 5 years for their inspection program currently. They pay for an inspection, and that's $25. So with this increase, we will be charging them $25 a year per unit. And so that's where the fee increase comes from.
It is then.
Correct, it is, yes. He is correct on the 500%.
Thank you.
And Craig, how long has this ordinance change been a subject? How long has this been going on? As far as changing the ordinance, amending it the way that we've done here?
Boy, you think I would know that date when we started this whole thing. Over a year, I can tell you that. I know last winter is when we started on this. It was before the first of the year, so well over a year. I don't know.
And has the public had access to making comments prior to tonight?
Yes, they have.
Okay.
And I've always sent out to the Landlords Association through Sue or Mark, every time we've made a revision, I send them an email saying, here's the revision and here's the new ordinance that we're proposing. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, Mr. Welper?
I've been here 12 years, and we've been dealing with it at least that long.
Thanks. Yes, Mark, just step to the microphone, please.
Mark Pregler, 5312 Hammond, Blackhawk Landlords. One thing that he passed, that Forrest addressed that was passed over, was being able to pass along to the city personal information from the applicants and from the tenants. We did ask for some sort of indemnification on behalf of the landlords for providing the city with that information. While on most applications, there's something that states at the bottom, I swear that everything on this application is truthful and I may share it with third parties. Not every application may say that, but they should, and this will be part of the training process for not just our members, but all landlords that we were committed to with the city in trying to pass some of these details. But it is an important detail to hold the landlords not liable for the information that may have been falsely given to them by the tenants as we pass it on to the applications of the rental registrations. But that's just one of those many gray areas that as Forrest alluded to, that lawsuits may be pending. We hope it doesn't come to that, but it is one of those compromises that we had hoped for that wasn't necessarily written in the article, but it's also talking about the spirit of the ordinance, not necessarily the letter of the ordinance. But that is one of several gray areas, was indemnification for providing the information on somebody else.
Thanks, Mark. Are there further comments? Yes, sir.
My name is Marty Stokes. Excuse me, I'm with Martin Realtors in Waterloo, 1419 West 4th Street. And, excuse me, I'd like to thank Mr. Mayor, council, and city staff that's put their time into getting here today. I have been part of some of the meetings that were held, and so I do appreciate the city's willingness to hear out the landlords. We're a property management firm. We represent some 75 property owners, and so we see how ordinances and different fees and things affect our property owners. And without spending too much time, I just want to let you know that personally, as a property manager, we share the same concerns that you have expressed, and I think we're all wanting the same goals. It's just a matter of how do we get to those. And I mirror Mr. Delavue's concern about the fees. And while we'd like to get the same goals, a 500% increase in what we're paying per unit seems a little bit steep, in my opinion. My suggestion would be, rather than doing the $25 fee that has been suggested, when it comes time to pass a resolution for a fee, rather than going 500%, why don't we just merely double the fees that we're paying, see how it goes, and if we can reach the goals of this program without creating additional hardship unnecessarily to the landlords. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty, appreciate it. Council, do you have any further questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor, if
Mr.
I could
Schmidt?
just ask
Sure.
Mr. Clark, and I don't know if this is enough notice, but following Mr. Stokes' question, what would be the ramifications or the results of that if we were to double the fees rather than quintuple?
I guess the ramifications would be, that would come out of the taxpayer's pocket, not the landlord's. I mean, it's simply, we're trying to put a program here that would pay for itself, and if it's not paid for by itself, it'll come out of the general fund.
Further comments? I would just add one of my own, Council, that as has been indicated, we've been working on this for a very long time. We've had lots of meetings privately with the group and publicly with explanations. So while this may not be the perfect panacea for all ills, I sure hope you'll see your way clear to pass this tonight so that we at least have a start. And as all of you know, nothing is carved in stone around here. We can make amendments and we can make changes as needed if things aren't working the way we expect them. Madam Clerk, it's a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Very good, that motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, a motion to suspend the rules?
Second?
And it's a roll call vote, Madam Clerk, please.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Mr. Mayor, I do just want to explain my vote here because I am going to be voting no. And while I understand, I appreciate Mr. Welper's comment that he's been working on this for 12 years, I know this conversation's been going on a lot for the last year. I also think, though, we've had it up to the table, then we've taken it back, then there's been things added and things changed. And so for that reason, I'm not going to vote to suspend the rules and pass it second, third time, if nothing else, than to just make sure that all the landlords out there are aware of what's going on here and give them an opportunity to come down and talk to us if they want to. So I'm going to vote no on suspending the rules.
Mr. Mayor, point of information. I think it would be appropriate at this time. How many council members own rental property?
I own a house.
Those who have skin in the game.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cole.
Mr. Lind?
No.
Okay, motion fails. We will read it for the second time next week. Thank you all for coming to this, and I'm sure we will meet again. Item number 18, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hart.
let me take both of those as just one.
Well,
Motion.
hang on just a second. Do I need to finish that vote?
I would prefer it.
I'm sorry. Let's finish the vote. Even though it fails, let's finish the vote. I'm sorry. I just thought of that.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's good.
Okay. Mr. Hart, please, with number 18.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to instruct city engineer to prepare a plan, specification, form of contract for the FY 2014 Blowers Creek Stormwater Lift Station and Dry Run Creek Improvements, contract number 842.
I think we can do 18 and 19 together,
And I'd
Mr.
also
Hart.
like to move to instruct the Waste Management Services to prepare a plan, specification, form of contract for the Phase 1 CIP pipelining service areas number 15 and 16, contract number 866.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
For 18 and 19, I move to receive and file plan, specifications, form of contract.
Second?
Council, do you have any comments regarding this? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
For 18 and 19, I move to adopt a resolution preliminarily approving plan, specifications, form of contract, etc.
Second?
It's a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, in 18 and 19, for 18, I move to adopt a resolution setting date of hearing and bid opening as March 17th for 18 and March 10th for 19, and with both of those, instruct the city clerk to publish notice of plan, specification, form of contract, et cetera.
Second?
It's a roll call vote, Madam Clerk, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart? Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, council. A good meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our regularly scheduled business tonight. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the mayor or the council regarding any items of business, please do so now. Just step to the microphone, give us your name and your address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Ted Lederman. I live at 1758 Pinehurst Lane, Waterloo, 50701. During the last mayoral contest in Waterloo, one of the candidates was saying that he knows no way of decreasing revenue to the city without decreasing services to the citizens of the city. I do not believe that's true. I think that we should look at our expenditures and evaluate them compared to what other organizations are paying. Looking at health care, and I've received help from this from one of the city employees and the CEO from a major local private firm. Looking at insurance costs for an employed man with a homebound wife, the city of Waterloo takes from his paycheck $960 per year. For the same man with a homebound wife, the private employer takes from his paycheck $3,692 per year, meaning that the employee for the city of Waterloo has $2,732 more in his paycheck at the end of the year. Now, looking at the premiums that are paid for health insurance, so the premium of an employee of the city of Waterloo with a homebound wife, the premium paid for this health care of that employee by the city is $21,013 per year, $21,013 per year. Looking at the same employee, if he's privately employed with a homebound wife, the premium paid by that private firm and is paid is $9,910, meaning the city of Waterloo is paying for its employee with a homebound wife $11,103 per year more for health insurance than the private employer. In addition, the benefits to the city employee are greater than the benefits to the privately employed employee, and the deductibles are higher. If we could consider saving $5,000 a year on the 650 employees on the city of Waterloo, that would mean a savings of $3,250,000. These are large sums, and I think they should be digested and be acted upon by the mayor and by the city council. Thank you.
Thanks, Ted. I'm curious as to one question for you. How did you arrive at the, I think you said $21,000 worth of premiums. How did you arrive at that?
I asked one of the city employees who has information concerning the cost of the premiums to the city of Waterloo. This was the information I was given. It was something like $1,700 per month. I just multiplied it by 12.
Okay.
The information from the CEO, and I can give it your
No, that's
name,
fine.
although he does not wish to do so, but he'd be happy to talk to you, has over 1,000 employees, and he gave me this information at the cost for his health insurance for his employees, instead of being $21,000, is $9,910.
Okay.
Are
Thank
there
you.
any, are there any other questions?
No, that was fine. Thank you, Mr. Lederman. I appreciate it.
Bill Kemmeyer, 526 Home Park Boulevard. I'd just like to give you the opportunity to clarify. I thought I understood what you said at the last meeting about the remodeling of this room and how it was going to be paid for, but then I thought, well, maybe I misunderstood you. But obviously, the Courier understood you and understood you right, and what they printed in the Courier is what you said. And I just kind of like you to clarify that. Now, the bottom line is taxpayers are going to pay for it, right?
That's
That's the
correct.
bottom line.
That's correct.
So all this about not here, not there, bottom line is we're paying for it.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Steve Murphy, 124 Terrace Drive. Mr. Mayor and City Council, I've been in a email exchange with the mayor and some of the council members since late last year regarding exploring some options for the Waterloo sanitation costs. And I thought we were exploring new options, but at the end of months of emails, what I found out is that we really weren't looking for any new information and we really weren't open to any new ideas. I implore my fellow citizens of Waterloo to look at all the costs we pay to run the city. And I don't mean just the taxes we pay, because the citizens don't care if the council calls it a tax or a user fee. We all call it the same thing before we send it to you on your demand. We call it our money, our income. How many people in the chamber or listening at home are looking for a job that allows a 4-day work week? You get to go home when you're finished for the day. You get 11 paid holidays. The very first week, the first year you start, you get a week's vacation. If you make it to the second year, you get 2 weeks vacation on top of the 11 paid holidays. Would it make it better if the average pay to that department is $50,613 and what can only be described as a pretty generous benefit program and a rock-solid pension? I've just described what the citizens of Waterloo provide the Waterloo Sanitation Department last year. All I was asking for was some bids from some companies that are in the business of providing sanitation services for many, many other cities, including some right here in Iowa. Maybe we're getting a bargain for the millions and millions of dollars in user fees we pay, but maybe there's a way for us to save the citizens some cash, which we can then turn around and pay in the increased utility fees, increased tax bills from the county, the schools, Hawkeye community, and even our fair city. The mayor told me via email that he would not seek bids from outside entities unless directed by a majority of the city council. So I'm asking the citizens of Waterloo to contact your council representatives and tell them, in your own words, that you're interested in getting bids so that we have a measuring stick that kind of measures the value of what we're getting for our money. Think of the number of friends and relatives that you know that would love to have the job I just described earlier. And then think about the fact that you're paying for that job without even knowing if you're getting a good value. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Forrest Dillaboo, 1725 Huntington Road. I would like to talk about something just a little different. Recently, we learned from AECom that we have some real sewer problems, and they're attributed to stormwater getting into the sanitary system, causing overloads, potential lawsuits from the government, and fees and fines and whatever. And it was mentioned by him, there are various ways to pay for that. I have a suggestion for you to look at as you go through this process and try and figure out what you're going to do, where you're going to start, and how you're going to fund it. Each year, we pay an enormous amount of stormwater fees. And as I looked at what I could find out about where they're going today, they are sweeping streets, cleaning sewers, hiring more people, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end, what's left over is used for major projects. I would like to suggest to you that this would help all of the citizens in Waterloo, not just in one neighborhood, but if you took this stormwater money and started fixing what needs fixing, and it's mostly in spotty neighborhoods, as the AECom reported, and fund that with stormwater fee money, that will help every citizen in the city of Waterloo, because if we get it out of there and we don't get fined, let's use everybody's money to get us in better shape. And according to him, a couple neighborhoods would get us in compliance today and then work on the rest of the city as the same.
Good suggestions. Thank you, Forrest.
Randy Herod, 111 Highland Avenue Boulevard. Old subject, the animal control area. Just two quick items on it that keeps coming up at meetings. One is the reasons that we're doing this, and we all want things improved, is that we want a better product. And that's great. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. But leaving in the comment at that, it's kind of like trying to row a boat with one oar. Unless we define what the bad product was, saying that we're going to have a better product really doesn't mean anything. So I'd like to see some kind of definition of what we have left behind. Secondly, there's been a lot of talk about trying to increase revenues, which we all want to do. And one of those areas that's been talked about at different meetings is that the city of Cedar Falls and the county of Black Hawk are anxious, I think the word is, to join us. And that's great if they want to do that. But I'll have to admit that myself and other people who have tried to find who on the county and who at Cedar Falls is anxious to join us, we've failed utterly. We haven't found anybody who's interested or anxious at all. And so we'd like to have a list of who is it from Cedar Falls and from Black Hawk County that is standing up and saying, yes, we want to join Waterloo, because otherwise our projections don't really mean anything either.
Thanks, Randy.
Motion to receive and file oral comments and adjourn.
Second.
Council, do you have any comments before we do? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you all very much.